as far as, like, women around me, I didn't really grow up seeing too many pregnant people. It's weird. I didn't really
Mm,
see too many pregnant people, and if I did, it was in a movie.
yeah.
And you know how they portray birth in movies.
Mhm.
It's always very dramatic and screaming and commotion, and you never see in a movie someone giving birth at home. That's just not something that
Yeah.
you see.
If they do portray it at home, it's always like, "Oh, this big emergency happens and now we have to transfer." It's
Right.
never a successful home birth, just plain
Right.
and simple.
It's true. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's true. And so yeah, I honestly I didn't really have any like fears bottled up from any traumatic stories I've heard from family members or anything like that. So I guess
Mhm.
I'm kind of, lucky in that sense.
Hey, you're listening to Births at Home, the podcast with me, Esmeralda, the home birth doula, as your host. I am a mama of three, fellow home birther, and entrepreneur. I am completely obsessed with birth, more specifically, home birth. And this is a podcast where women share their positive home birth stories, as well as the journey that led them down the path to home birth. Whether you're currently pregnant, planning a home birth with your first or fourth baby, or even just someone who is a complete birth nerd like me, this podcast is for you. So grab a cup of coffee and enjoy. Hi, August. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is August McQueen. I am a 25, almost 26-year-old who is now living in California. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. Shout out to my Texas girls. But yes, I'm from originally from San Antonio, Texas, and I moved to Los Angeles back in 2021, where I basically met my now fiance. So, yeah, I'm a photographer, a model. I also help models. So I do model coaching
Mm.
and I like to paint as well. So I'm a abstract painter. And yeah, we just had our baby 6 months ago at home in our bedroom. So yeah.
That's exciting. You do a lot. You have a lot of little adventures and hobbies. That's really cool.
Yes, yes.
How did you get into the home birth world? What made you kind of start thinking about a home birth?
So, first of all, I honestly never wanted to have kids.
Mm,
I really never wanted to have kids just because, like I said, I'm a model and typically you don't see models pregnant. And
mhm.
if you do, they're modeling maternity, but that wasn't my energy space. I was doing swimwear and, all different types of modeling, bridal, and usually these types of models aren't pregnant. So
Yeah.
it's just not something that I saw for myself in the near future because basically I'm in the prime of modeling, when you're
Mm,
a bit younger, even though the industry has changed and there are all ages, don't get me wrong, but it's just really not something that I thought that I would do anytime soon. So when I met my fiance, honestly, when we first met, he was like, "You don't want to have kids, right?" And I was like, "Lord, you got the wrong one. Like, I am not trying to have kids anytime soon."
mhm.
But as we grew closer, the idea started to become a little bit more appealing. And so before I knew it, I ended up taking a test just on a whim. I didn't even think that I was pregnant. I actually
Mm,
knew that I couldn't get pregnant because it's a long story, but basically I have a gluten sensitivity.
mhm.
So I didn't know it, but it was causing a lot of disruptions in my life. It was causing really painful periods. I was vomiting every time I got my period. I couldn't hold any food, couldn't hold any water. I was having like bad clots, like the whole nine, right? A lot of acne. And so I saw a holistic doctor and he was like, "Oh, well, gluten for you can cause infertility, it can cause your acne." I was also having a lot of joint pain in my hands and in my knees. And so he said, "Cut it out and things will probably clear up for you." So I got my cycle after cutting out gluten for about 2 weeks. I got my cycle, had no vomiting, had no pain. The acne started disappearing. And then a month later, I actually got pregnant.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And so I was just at the grocery store, took a test, and it said pregnant, and so I started researching different things about pregnancy, and I saw a home birth video,
Mm.
on Instagram of someone having a home birth, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, definitely, this resonates with me." I don't think
Mhm.
that I wanna go to a hospital because just for me personally, it was not the type of setting, that I thought I would be in for birth,
Mhm.
and also I thought to myself, I've heard a lot of stories about women not being able to eat. I know that it might not be that way for everybody, but I was hearing that a lot, like you're not allowed to eat
Mhm.
because they don't want you to like poop or throw up. Um, and so I thought to myself, how many times I've been near fainting because I haven't had any food. So I thought,
Mhm.
how am I supposed to have the energy and the strength to push out a baby if I haven't ate anything?
Yeah.
So that reason alone, I was like, I want to be able to push my baby out. And I know if I'm weak, that's not going to be a possibility. So that's kind of how I, started thinking to do a home birth and to find a midwife.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm kind of interested in knowing, how did you grow up around birth?
So growing up, so I'm adopted actually.
Okay.
Shout out to my adopted sisters. So I'm adopted and I grew up thinking that my mom had a natural birth with me. So I always thought that was pretty cool. Like, wow. And she was there alone.
Mhm.
Her family wasn't really supportive of the whole biracial baby situation. And so she was there in the hospital alone. And my mom told me that she had a natural birth. And as far as like women around me, I didn't really grow up seeing too many pregnant people. It's weird. I didn't really
Mm.
see too many pregnant people. And if I did, it was in a movie.
Yeah.
And you know how they portray birth in movies.
Mhm.
It's always very dramatic and screaming and commotion, and you never see in a movie someone giving birth at home. That's just not something
Yeah.
that you see.
If they do portray it at home, it's always like, "Oh, this big emergency happens and now we have to transfer." It's
Right,
never a successful home birth, just plain
right.
and simple.
It's true. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's true. And so yeah, I honestly I didn't really have any like fears bottled up from any traumatic stories I've heard from family members or anything like that. So I guess
Mhm.
I'm kind of, lucky in that sense. So yeah, I was really just like after seeing so many YouTube videos of women, because I started watching every single I would refresh every single day to see if someone gave birth at home and
Mhm.
uploaded it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning, I was like, okay, all these women from all different shapes and sizes, all different ethnicities have had all these positive births at home. Why
Mhm.
can't I also do it?
Yeah.
And sure, they weren't all like breathing out their baby peacefully and just looking beautiful. Some of those were very raw and very
Mhm.
loud and emotional, but it didn't really scare me. For some weird reason, it gave me this inner power like, wow, I can do
Mhm.
that too.
Yeah.
So
That's
hopefully that
awesome. Yeah, it did. I kind of feel like you maybe weren't conditioned, like the younger you wasn't conditioned to believe that birth was scary and dangerous and fearful like a lot of other people are. And that's why I did kind of ask what you grew up with around birth and everything. Because whenever you do grow up with it being scary, being dangerous, there's emergencies, people always tell you that. Even a video wouldn't, like, sway you that way right away. It has to take, like, a little bit more.
right.
So, you saying just, like, one video was kind of, like, pulling you in right away. I was just
Yeah,
a little bit interested in your background, so that makes sense. But I'm glad you grew up that way and not with, like, all this fear surrounding birth.
right. They'll say the only negative feedback I got, because I immediately told my mom and I immediately told my dad and my friends too, like, I'm having this baby at home. I told my grandma, because I'm adopted. So this is my grandma who's back in Jasper. Hey, grandma. She's in Jasper, Texas, which is a really, really, really small country town outside of Houston, very close to Louisiana. There's like 500 people there. She definitely gave a lot of fear mongering. She thought I was crazy. She was like, She's like, basically, you could die. I was like,
Mhm.
Grandma, like, don't say that. Like, you could, things happen in the hospital too. And she
Mhm.
was just like, what the heck, basically, like, don't do that. Why would
Yeah.
you do? But my parents, surprisingly, they were like, okay. I was like, what do you mean,
Mhm.
okay? Where's my mom and dad? Like, I thought y'all were gonna freak out, but they didn't. So I also got lucky there too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because that's normally people's automatic thought of home birth is that, like, someone's going to die if
Yeah,
you give birth at home. And that's all that conditioning that I was talking about when you're growing up is you're just conditioned to fear birth, and that's really scary for some people.
yeah,
So, yeah, I'm glad that more people are opening up to home birth and are talking about it. That's exactly why I started this podcast because it helps hopefully condition the younger generation to not believe that birth is scary and that it's
yeah.
something that can be beautifully done at home.
Yes, I
Mhm.
agree. What you're doing is very, very important work. So
Mhm. Thank you. I
we
appreciate
appreciate
that.
it. Yeah.
And so if you want to go ahead and start letting us know just like when you started going into labor and everything up until the birth.
Okay. So as far as like being pregnant, this is also gonna shock some people. I didn't have any symptoms my entire pregnancy
Mm,
at all. Like at
yeah.
all. I woke up and I like looked around the room. I was like, am I feeling sick? Am I gonna throw up? No. Went to sleep, woke up the next day, same thing. I'm like looking around the room, like, and then I touched my belly, like, you really in there? Like, is everything okay? Like, I never had any symptoms. And so I found my midwife and, I saw her once a month. And then leading up closer to 36 weeks, you start seeing the midwife every two times, yeah, 2 times a week. And I was approaching my 38th week of pregnancy, and we're like, "Ooh, okay, we're getting ready.
Yeah.
Um, and I was also breech. Well, not me, my baby. She was also breech, and she was breech around 36 weeks. And so my midwife said, don't worry, she has plenty of time to flip. Meanwhile, I was freaking out. I was like, we are not having a breech baby at home. Okay. Midwife in Los Angeles is not, yeah, midwives in Los Angeles can't deliver a breech baby. You have to have like a special type of midwife, like a special type of nurse who's like in hospital or something, and they can come to your house.
Mm,
Um, so I was like really nervous, and she said, "Go ahead and get some acupuncture," and that has helped a lot of women. And so I went and I got acupuncture about, I think it was 2 or 3 times in Palm Springs because we were actually staying in Palm Springs at the time. And so I would kind of travel back and forth to see my midwife, even though I was in Palm Springs. And so yeah, so I would also be in the pool a lot, trying to flip my baby.
mm, mhm.
I was doing all the handstands, all the flips, all the back flips in the water. And I
Yeah.
went to see her again at 38 weeks, and she felt the baby and she said her head was down. And so I was so happy. I was
Yeah.
like, such relief, such relief. And so things are progressing, right? Let's see, we get closer. So I hit 39 weeks. I'm feeling a little bit of pressure down there. Pressure, I'm feeling a little bit of what I call like period-like sensations down there, but still nothing drastic. So I was like, y'all, this baby ain't coming anytime soon. I can tell. Like, my mom was trying to fly in from Texas
Mhm.
for my due date, which was September 18th. And I was like, Mom, like I would love for you to be here on September 18th, but I'm telling you right now, like this baby is not gonna be here on that day. And she came anyway. And it was September 18th, which I think was like a Sunday. No sign of baby. And so I met with my midwife, and she's like, okay, well, there's a few things you can do. We
Yeah.
can do some type of induction, natural, like the midwife's brew. And me personally, I wasn't vibing with the whole induction because I was just like, okay, if this baby is perfectly healthy inside of me, why am I going to force you to evacuate?
Mhm.
Why do I need to do that if
Yeah.
you're fine? You know? And so I was like, no, no, no. And she's like, okay, well, you could do acupuncture. And so I went back to a different lady here in Los Angeles who was actually a midwife. She
Okay.
had just retired, like just delivered her last baby. And so she put some needles in me and I was there. And I think earlier that day as well, I had a membrane sweep. No, no, no. I think she was just checking to see if I was dilated. Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
So either a day before or the same day I got acupuncture, I saw my midwife and she wanted to check me to see if I had dilated at all. And I did. I think she said I was 2 centimeters dilated. Went to
Okay.
the acupuncture, saw the midwife who does the acupuncture, got that done. I went into labor literally either that night. Yeah, I think it was that night around 12:30. I was in bed and I woke up and I was like, what is that? What is that? I think I know what that is. And I didn't wake
Yeah.
my partner. I let him sleep because they always say it could be false labor or you could
Mhm.
start being in labor for a couple of days. And so I was just trying to stay calm. But it was definitely an intense feeling
Mhm.
for sure. It was definitely an intense feeling. And so then I kept feeling that and I was like, "Ooh," I was like doing one of those, like, "Okay, okay, something's happening for sure." And
Mhm.
so I filled up the tub. We had a little cast iron tub in this Airbnb that we were staying at. Not ideal. Don't recommend laboring in a cast iron tub. Very uncomfortable, especially when you're 5'9". That tub was very small. So I start the water, I'm in the water, and I get the app. Oh my gosh, what is it called? Freya?
Mm. The
That
contraction
Yeah,
one? Yeah.
yeah. So I get that, I put it up, I turn on Harry Potter because I am a Harry Potter nerd. I'm watching Harry Potter, trying to distract myself. Um, and to where I feel like it's consistent. So I open up the app and I start timing it. And after maybe 2 hours, I get a notification and it says, congratulations, you are now in active labor. And I'm like, oh my God, it's time. Mind you, I didn't even mention that this is 11 days after I'm sorry, after my due date,
Mm.
my estimated due date. This is 11 days. If she would have waited to come for another day, I would have had to go to the hospital because state of law, they don't allow you to deliver at home at 41 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was like, praise God that this is happening right now. And so, yeah, I
Mhm.
was in the tub. The water felt great. It was very relaxing. I could still feel the intensity for sure, but the water is just soothing. Warm water is always going to be soothing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, my partner kind of wakes up because I think he hears me like just being kind of vocal. And he's like, have you called the midwife? I was like, no, babe, like I don't need to call her yet. It's 3 a.m. It was literally 3 a.m. I was like, I'm not gonna call her yet. Like, it's fine. I know there's no way that this baby's gonna come immediately. I have some
Mhm.
time. And so I labored and labored and labored. And I think it was 5 a.m. when my midwife's name is Jess, when I finally called Jess. And I was like, hey, Jess, feeling some things. And I've been tracking it. My contractions are like 10 minutes apart, 7 minutes apart. Sometimes they're 4 minutes apart, but it was very consistent. But the time that it was lasting wasn't consistent. So it wasn't like
Mm.
7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes. It was still kind of
Yeah.
sporadic, but they were coming.
Yeah.
And so, so I called my doula as well. I had a doula. Her name is Daisy. And I called Daisy and I let her know. And she was like, okay, definitely get the rebozo and use that. Have your partner use the rebozo on you, which we did. I lived in that position because the surges were so intense, manageable, but so intense. That rebozo really saved me. It
Mhm.
really did. He wrapped it around my belly and shook. And I just bossed through it. Like I knew that there was no other option. Like hospital, out of the question. It was not an option. I had already paid all this money, or we
Mhm.
we had already paid all this money to do a home birth.
Yeah.
We're doing the dang thing. So I was just, it was very intense. It
Mhm.
was very intense. But I was laboring until she was born at 5. But yeah, so my midwife, she came over at 2:33 and she's like, "Do you want me to check you to see how far along you are?" And a part of me was like, what if I've been experiencing all this intensity just to be at like a 4?
Yeah.
It's been like all day. Okay, it's been midnight. It's now 3 o'clock. But I was like, you know what? Sure, why not? Go
Mhm.
ahead. And so she checked me at 3 o'clock, and I was 7 centimeters. And I was like, oh wow, okay,
Mhm.
we're getting close to pushing. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I'm like getting these butterflies, like, wow, I'm really about to meet my baby. Like, this is
Mhm.
crazy. And so I was in the living room and I transitioned to the bedroom. My midwife is in there trying to get the tub set up, trying to put the water. And my doula had came over and she's like, do you want to get in the shower? And mind you, this Airbnb, this shower was like so small.
Oh, no.
Not like this wide. Like
Uh-huh.
it was tiny. And in my mind, I thought that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah.
That does not sound fun at all. But I went in because the water sounded appealing. So I went in and I was like, what am I supposed to do? Stand? I can't stand right now. I can't stand at all. And so I just crouched down and I'm in there and I'm like, oh God. I'm going through it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all such a blur. But I just remember I kept asking, is the birth tub ready? And they're like, no, not yet. There's not enough water
Mm.
in there. I was like, Lord, so I was probably in that shower for maybe 45 minutes and then it was finally ready. It wasn't even that full, but I was like, just get me in that tub.
Mhm.
And I got in the tub and it was a lot better. Still pretty intense. Still pretty intense. But the water just helped. And to be on like a cushiony surface was helpful as well. Um, and I was a little bit intimidated because I had seen some videos where the baby's head comes out,
Mm.
like the baby's head is born, and then it doesn't just like come out.
Yeah.
And so in their face, their baby's face kind of starts turning purple. And seeing that always scared me. I was like, oh my God, like, can the baby breathe? Like, are they still getting, is this an emergency? Does
Mhm.
a woman need like an episiotomy? Is that what it's called? Episiotomy?
Episiotomy. Mhm.
Episiotomy, so I was just nervous of that happening to me and having to get up and change positions. And so my body started kind of like, it's like when you have to sneeze, it's like automatically, my
Mhm.
stomach was automatically like starting to try to push her out.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was getting nervous. I was like, wow, like she's really trying to come out right now. And so I was starting to push and I was pushing for probably an hour. It was not like a quick, you're out. She made me work for it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as painful. I will say it wasn't as painful actually pushing her out. So finally her head, you could see her hair. And so my midwife was like, do you want to touch her hair and feel her hair? And so I did, and I was like, ow, this is crazy. Like I can feel her. I've been feeling my belly, but now I can actually feel her, like her actual
Mhm.
being. And so that honestly, it gave me more energy to push. Mind you, I had only ate like a couple of grapes and a sip of a smoothie over here talking about I don't want to be in a hospital because I want to be able to eat.
Yeah.
I had no appetite. I was trying to force myself. I'm like, I need
Mhm.
energy to push. And I could not stomach anything,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
is crazy because if anyone knows me in life, I eat all the time, all day, every day. I could just eat and still need more food. So it
Yeah.
was wild that I was able to basically push her out with nothing in my stomach. But yeah, so she started crowning. She started crowning, and then she would go back inside. She's
Mhm.
like, Earth, I don't know about this. So then she kept doing that multiple times, and so she was slowly stretching. And so then it got to the point that women talk about the ring of fire.
Yeah.
And I experienced the ring of fire. That was probably the most painful part of pushing. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't like
Mhm.
every time I needed to push. I was just like bearing down, breathing her out.
Yeah.
What did hurt really bad was the ring of fire that was burning. And so finally I started pushing her out more. And that's when we all noticed that her hand was like this on her head.
Oh.
which was why it was probably taking so long because the average dilation is 10 centimeters. Well, her little fist probably added an extra inch that my body
Yeah.
needed or more, who knows, right? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I finally pushed her out. I didn't scream or anything like that. It was really like a relief. And so
Mhm.
she came out and I had her in my arms and I was like, "Holy cow, I birthed a giant." It was such a tall baby. I think she was like 21, 22 inches, and
Mhm.
I was just so shocked. I was like, "Oh my god. Wow. I did it. I really did
Mhm.
it. This is so cool. Oh my god." And then shortly after my midwife was like, "Okay, you got to get up," because I wanted to do cord banking
Mm.
where you take the cord and you send it off to the lab so they can have the stem cells and all of that. So literally like 60 seconds, she's like, "Okay, you need to get up because we got to get that cord immediately." So I stood up. I'm like, "Whoa," and she
Yeah.
realizes how much blood I'm losing,
Mhm.
and she's like, "You're actually hemorrhaging, so we need to lay you on the bed and figure out why you're hemorrhaging." So she got her pitocin and stuck it in my leg or my thigh, and
Mhm.
she was feeling around. She had to feel around inside of me, which was very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I was like, "I just gave birth. If you need to do one more thing, why not?" So I
Yeah.
just toughed it out, and she was feeling around, and I think what it was there was, like, a little piece of my placenta that was, like, still attached or something, and it didn't wanna come out, or it was, like, floating
Mhm.
in there or something,
Yeah.
but after a few minutes, it still wasn't coming out, and so she gave me, some type of tincture to, get the placenta out, and it finally came out, and all was well. I wasn't hemorrhaging anymore. She got the blood under control and everything, and then, it was time for baby to eat.
Yeah.
And so I latched her, and it hurt like heck. I will say it really did hurt really bad. And
Mhm.
it hurt for like the first week.
Yeah.
It hurt for the first week, and I was like, "Oh my god." People do say it's hard. Now I know what they mean. Now I know what they mean.
Mhm.
And I was this close to having a breastfeeding consultant or a lactation.
A lactation consultant. Mhm.
Yes, to come over, and the day that I called her is actually the day that I finally got a good latch,
Mm.
and so, yeah, that's kind of the story of birth for me.
Yeah. That's amazing. Were you ever at any point feeling like you maybe should transfer to the hospital? I know you said it was all like home birth or nothing. We're not going to the hospital, but did you ever have those like doubts kind of creep in at any time?
Honestly, no. No, because when I thought of that in regards to, how it felt uncomfortable, the labor process, I was just like, either I can sit here in this tub and be uncomfortable,
Mhm.
because I was basically naked. I was naked in the tub. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna have to put on clothes, get in a car,
Yeah.
drive to a hospital who doesn't even expect that I'm coming. Never even, it just wasn't even an option. It just wasn't even a thought. I was like, this baby's coming out one way or another right here in this
Yeah.
tub. Yeah, so
I love it. I love that mindset. I feel like that is really good at like helping keep you at home because whenever you don't have that mindset, it's very easy to like feel that little like fear or doubt and just like automatically rush to the hospital.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's good to have that mindset of like, nope, I'm good here. I'll stay
Yeah,
here.
yeah, like, I just went into it knowing and seeing, really seeing, because my partner was like, "Don't watch," he wasn't necessarily like, "Don't watch," but sometimes he would hear the women screaming, and
Mhm.
he'd be like, "You're gonna scare yourself, like, should you really be watching all those videos?" And I'm like, "Don't worry, like, I'm not getting scared, like, if I can see somebody else do it,
Mhm.
then I know that I can do it too."
Yeah.
So that's how I just have all those videos in my mind, like, Sarah did it, Kelly did it, Martha did it, Becky did it. I can do it too. So I'm
Mhm.
just gonna have to tough it out and be here in this tub. And yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. Did you share your birth story with your grandma?
You know what? I think all I just said was, I had her at home. I was like, "I had her at home." I
Mhm.
think that's really it, like, "Yep, the baby's here. Because she would everyone was texting me, oh my gosh, leading
Yeah,
up. Everyone was texting me, "Is the baby here? Is the baby here?" Calling me, like, asking me. "No, no, no, baby's not here yet." 11 days later, she's finally here, and so I call my grandma and I'm like, "Yep, I had her at home." She was like, "Wow, good for
yeah.
you." She's super country. It was yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah.
"I told you, like, I'll be okay."
Yeah, that's awesome.
And my mom was there. I had my mom there, and at first I was like, "I don't think I want my mom, like, seeing me naked in a tub, like, legs wide open, pushing out a human being," but in the moment, I did not care. I
Mhm.
could care less.
Yeah.
So and we also recorded it too. My doula was like, "Do you wanna have, a videographer come by?" I've seen a lot of women do that, but for me, I was like, "No, I don't know you. You think
Yeah.
you're gonna have a video of me in your camera pushing out baby? Like, I don't judge. If you wanna do that, go ahead, but for me personally, I'm kinda shy."
Mhm.
So we just had the tripod right there,
Yeah.
and I haven't even watched it all the way yet because I tried to, and it just makes me, like, not anxious, but it just makes me like, "Oh my god, wow, like, ooh, you're really, like, going through it," but
Mhm.
I need to. Now it's been 6 months, I think I'm ready to watch it and just, yeah,
Yeah.
kinda be in awe at it.
Mhm. And share your story like you did
Yeah.
today.
Like, honestly, I wish I could be ballsy enough to post it on YouTube. Like,
Mhm.
all these great women out here, like, actually posting themselves in the tub, but that won't happen. Not over here,
That's
but
okay.
yeah.
Mm. And so if anyone wants to kind of connect with you or find you on social media, where can they find you?
So my Instagram is the best place, and it's August McQueen, like Lightning McQueen or Alexander McQueen. It's August like the month, and then McQueen right after. So feel free to DM me with any questions, anything you feel like I didn't cover or want me to go further in depth with, then
Mhm.
feel free to do so. I also ate a lot of dates towards the end of my pregnancy, and I also religiously drink the raspberry leaf tea.
Yeah.
So I think those are the things that really help my contractions be like really consistent.
Mhm. Yeah. I absolutely have a whole ritual my third trimester whenever I'm pregnant with dates and red raspberry leaf tea. I love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
classic. You need it. It's like
Mhm.
you just gotta have it.
Yeah, it's like, why not even just try it? There's, no harm. It's not like you're
Yeah.
inducing labor with it like the midwife's brew, it's, completely different. Um,
Mhm.
so why not just, try it out and see if it helps you for labor and birth?
Yes, and placebos, like, placebos are also a huge thing that actually can trick your mind and trick your body into doing certain things, so even if you know, people feel like it doesn't work, if you
Mhm.
believe that you're doing something is going to help you achieve a certain goal, then it's, like, 90% more likely to happen, so
Yeah.
it can't hurt, it can't.
Yeah, exactly, it can't hurt. Yeah, that's great advice. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'll go ahead and leave your link down below, so if anyone wants to connect with you and ask more questions, they can go ahead and do that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. It was great having you on. If you are currently planning and preparing for a home birth, then let me tell you about the Home Birth Hub. It is a membership, and when you join, you gain access to live educational workshops, Q&A sessions, birth and mother circles, private community chats, my entire resource library, and so much more. To become a member, click the link down in the show notes and join us over at the Home Birth Hub. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love if you would share with any family or friends who may also benefit from these stories. Also, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review to help others find this podcast. Tune in next week for another amazing home birth story. Bye.